Party people, all my rebel souls. I want to thank you guys for being here. This is a very, very special series. This is my first, I don't even want to call it a course. I want to call it a healing session because I genuinely believe as if we live in a world where influencers, I don't even want to call myself that. I call myself a digital artist, if anything. But there's many creators and influencers who have gone out of their way to sell information, but selling information that's not really applicable or relevant to the audience that they're selling it to just as a means to get some money. And I hope that we enter a world where the creators that are sharing not just art, but sharing consciousness are doing so as a means of creating community and a culture that can contribute to the greater collective. I don't want to get too philosophical here. We are going to have a whole episode on that understanding and how we've created the framework for this healing session. Thank you for joining me in that. But I want to start this video by saying I'm very excited that you're here. I'm glad that you've chosen to listen to somebody as myself, somebody like myself, somebody that is myself, can't be nobody else, to share this information with you. And I also want to make sure that you know I'm not the only person that you're going to be receiving advice for and assistance for on this journey that you're going on. I'm just the messenger, for the most part, of information, hopefully of opportunity, but you're going to have to create that for yourself on the other end of this information that I'm giving you. So go ahead and just give yourself a round of applause for showing up to class. Because you know how many people cannot do that? Take it upon yourself, pat yourself on the back, pat yourself on the face, pat yourself on that. I think it's a good time to get ready to get into it. But before we get into it, I want you to know that there's a real cool something behind me. I don't know if you saw that. Yo, check that out one more time. If you'd like to support the channel, please feel free to go check out Cosmic Nomads Rebel Souls.shop and you can go get you some merch. Now, I apologize today. I'm not wearing the merch that I have on my my own website, but I do have a kind of cool shirt. So if you want to check that out, that's super dope. I think it's cool. But thinking a lot about the past couple of months and just understanding the process as to these courses coming out, I'm realizing that these courses are this isn't a means for me to get rich. Where I think a lot of people do take this as an opportunity to get rich on audiences they're cultivating. And for me, I'm not saying that I don't believe I'll be a wealthy person in the future, but this is an opportunity for me to cultivate, again, that community, that consciousness, that culture that I believe through information and advice and assistance that has greatly helped me on my journey. Somebody who really hasn't had too much to support him on not only just being the person I want to be, but just being able to find ground zero and to get connected back to myself beyond all that trauma and all the bullshit that I had to endure to get there. So, hoping with the utmost energy that this is information at whatever point of the journey that you're on that you can apply to your life and you can use to cultivate that flame within you. And remember that this life is about going within and sharing everything that you find in that unique Pandora's box with the whole entire world and letting your body, yourself, be a reflection of that expression and through that expression, that self-acceptance. Whole lot of conversations that we're going to have through this. I'm very glad that you're here. I'm very thankful that you're here. I know I keep repeating that, but it's because in my regular life, like there's a lot of people, but maybe it's because of the kind of the relationships that I was cultivating, and also the circumstances that I was having. I mean, this is called no contact narcissist, and you're going to understand that real well through the experiences that I give you through this. But I'm just yapping now. If you want to support the channel, you can like, comment, subscribe. You can check out some Cosmic Nomad gear. You probably look really good in it. I'll start doing more marketing and more of outposting for that on the socials soon. I just had to make sure that I got this course out first and let you guys know that I'm not playing with any of these creators, with any of these therapists, with any of these healers, with none of these people. I'm not playing with nobody. My people are going to have the knowledge that they need to change their lives, bro. That's what I came here to do. So again, for like the sixth time, thank you for being here. Let's get ready to get into some crazy shit. All right, good. Okay, we're recording now. So, again, thank you for like the seventh time, sixth, seventh time. If you get that reference, bro, you have to put it in the comments where you got it from. But this is our no contact narcissist course. Again, this isn't necessarily a course that's just going to completely free you from the narcissist in your life or allow you to just completely free yourself from the narcissism, that the natural narcissism that exists within all of us, and the consequences of that abuse that we have to individually take upon ourselves to go within and to purge and to heal from. But what I believe this is an opportunity for, as somebody who's on like the far other side of going no contact with my parents and really enduring a handful of narcissistic situations beyond that, seeking myself and just kind of the love and respect I never received as a child. I feel like there is a common process, there's a pattern, there's cycles of this that are very important to highlight as to somebody who really sees themselves or can recognize themselves in these circumstances and know that they deserve better than what they're enduring or what they're putting up with. Because one thing about this course, it's not me trying to put the whole entire world on like anti-narcissism. I'm speaking to the void, but it's because that void connects to another person through a phone, through a television, through a computer, that allows that person that resonates with this message to pick it up so deeply. Because one thing I'm going to tell you right now is that this information I didn't only get by going out into the world seeking for it. These are questions that I had deep, 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 deep down in my heart about my life, about myself, about my circumstances. And I was just waiting for the right people, the right opportunity, the right awareness, the right information to tell me, yes, you're enduring this experience and you have to address it before it kills you. I hate to be that direct about it, but like it will. If it doesn't directly kill you, it will slowly decay you outside of yourself, outside of a version of yourself you even know exists and you can even find the space to appreciate. And because of that, it's going to be so difficult to even heal or to grow because you're going to have to spend so much time digging through all the nonsense and the bullshit and the mask and the trauma and the pain and the suffering that is protecting you from even going back to yourself. And then from there, going back to yourself, you might not even have, you might lose so much just attempting to go back to yourself. It's going to be even more difficult to look back and go, oh my goodness, I have this whole life to create for myself and to take responsibility for. And on top of that, people might not even understand me. Like, holy shit. So as overwhelming as it can get and as crazy, as dynamic, as chaotic, not dynamic, as chaotic as the journey can get, I want to make sure that there is some kind of understanding to help you go through this process. And also milestones and shining lights to help you see, hey, there's steps to this. This isn't just going to be a decision that I make and say, okay, done with the narcissist, and then they just vanish. Like this is deliberate choice. This is deliberate action. This is intentional commitment. This is investment. This is a life transforming decision that you're making. Because if you genuinely want to free yourself from being in these, or at least kind of finding yourself in situations similar to this, where you are victimized, where you are preyed upon, you have to realize that who you are as a person fundamentally has to change. And we live in a society that not only creates, but reinforces self-abandonment and rejection, reinforces a docile prey-like being for many people. So it's easier for the masters of our society to prey on you, or the masters in your reality to find you and exploit you. This is a course to help to show you the being, probably somebody like myself who's neurodivergent, somebody who's been isolated, somebody who doesn't have experience or a lot of wisdom, didn't have a lot of supportive foundational wisdom to support through this. I had to learn straight through experience and through almost, seeing the other side. And hopefully you guys don't have to endure that pain. And if you are enduring that pain, through the information that I'm giving you, you guys can resonate with not only the decisions that I made, but the choices that you have the potential and the opportunity to make for the sake of changing your life, changing your circumstances. Because at the end of the day, it's not the reason why we even pursue a path like this for many of us is because we get pushed so far to the brink of wanting to even exist. Like it's there is it's pure hopelessness that the only two options that you can make are absolutely changing your life and everything about it, or ending it. And as somebody who's been there many times and has had to appreciate the ability to go that far and that deep into myself, I know how crazy that sounds. I want everybody, especially those of you who've had to push yourself to that point and really not wanting to be here, to be able to sit down and to see, well, what if I could change my life? What if this that I'm enduring right now, what if it's this nasty, horrible, sick, ridiculous struggle? Because this is reminding me this is the last time. Once I choose this is the last time, this will be the last time that I endure this. This will be the last time I let this person victimize me. This will be the last time that I let this person take advantage of my vulnerability, of my ignorance, of my naivete. This is the last time that I won't get justice for what has been done to me. And mind you, we're not talking about justice as revenge. We're talking about justice as getting the life that you deserve beyond all the bullshit that tried to convince you that you don't deserve anything but trauma and suffering. This course is going to get us on our rebel shit all 2025. This course is going to get us there. And I hope you guys are ready for it, because the reason why I'm literally cutting the whole first part of this course and I'm waiting to put it at the end is because the reason why I'm cutting this whole course, like this is a whole like 40 slide section. This is going at the end and after all of this, the main parts of the course, because this is so philosophically sound and so beautifully complex. It will fry your brain before we even get to a point where you should just be trying to find out, like, hey, what steps do I need to take? How do I become aware? What steps do I need to take? And how do I move on? And then I'll enjoy your little freaking fairy tale story at the end. So, um, but understand that this comes with this course is on the other side. And I'm taking so long to even get into it. Maybe because I might start crying during this shit. But this course comes on the other side of me looking at the end of my circumstance dead in the face and knowing that there was so much more to my life than I was being shown or even allowed to dig up. And I automatically turned around and tried to find everything that was in there. And I realized that I am so much more. And there's so much to appreciate and so much to love and so much to respect about myself and what I've been able to do and the habits that I've been able to cultivate and the things that I've been able to shed. It's like, damn, it's almost like the narcissist wanted me to hate myself for the sake of them being the only person that could love me. And once I found that out, I said, damn, you're going to have to do that little self-hatred shit on your own. And I'm going to go become every single thing I could possibly dream of in this life, sharing every bit of goodness and unique passion, energy that I have in my soul with the world, because I refuse to let my life be at the consequence of somebody who not only hates themselves, but hates everybody around them and forces everybody to be at the mercy of that fear and hatred. I want my life to be at the mercy of the love that I have for myself, the love that I have for my friends, the love that I have for the opportunities and the accommodations that I'm blessed to have, the love that I have for just living, breathing. we got a lot to get into, but let's do a real quick rundown as to what we're going to discuss through this. Mind you, I told the understanding that's going to happen at the end. So we're automatically just going to start this course or this healing session automatically with identifying and recognizing, and then we're going to move into the bottom. And once we get to the back end, we'll go back to the top and go into the philosophical analysis of it all. This will help on a multicultural level, understanding narcissism, how it's more than just some kind of psychological identity that can be given or psychiatric identity or disorder that can be established. It's literally an energetic parasite that has an opportunity to cling on and to victimize and to exploit in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. You have to be aware in an energetic sense and then aligned with the proper accommodation and education that can help you address it in real time. And if you don't have that, I'm telling you, you're fucked, because it's not a certain amount of knowledge that you can have to protect you from this, and it's not a strong body or like a ability to self-defend that'll protect you. It's the ability to dig into your own soul and to feel your own vulnerabilities, to feel your own flaws, to feel where others can take advantage, and being able to not only recognize that, but to protect that and to understand when others are going about these ways. Because I'm telling you right now, like, especially for you guys who don't have like healthy upbringings or like functional households, genuine like adult, especially adults with like that are good people, they don't just go out of their way to like shit on you or to ruin your opportunities or to block you from like progressing in this life. No. Even better, they support you. They help keep you consistent. They make sure that you're committed to the path that you're pursuing. Like, there's so many benefits with having genuine, good, supportive people in your life. After going through so much trauma, it can be very difficult to maintain the hope and the faith and the belief in that. So hopefully this course allows us to be able to take responsibility over everything that we can control in our lives, allowing us to not only clear that space within ourselves for healthier connections, but also making sure that we even have the awareness and the ability to focus on and to reciprocate to those healthy connections that give us so much more than money or status in this narcissistic society can genuinely provide us. Now, let's speed through here. We're going to identify and recognize the aspects of narcissism as they apply in your life, probably in your life, and circumstances and environments that will cultivate this type of energy. We're going to get all the way through to the point that will allow you to see or to probably realize what circumstances are going to allow you to come to the conclusion, I have to leave this body like clonking out, or I have to leave this experience in these circumstances and create something new. The whole point of this course, it is knowing that society is very hopeless right now, and it's only increasing that, especially with like billionaires just chicken choking the fuck out of society. We have to go the optimist, the delusional optimist route. That might be the only hope that we have. And if it is, we're using every single bit of it. We're going from, I've decided to escape, but I'm not escaping to run away from these problems anymore. And I'm not even running away from the problems that I'm escaping from. I'm literally leaving to accommodate my well-being, because the people that I'm leaving from do not respect or value that. And they don't deserve to be around me to just destroy and deteriorate my own well-being or make it more difficult for me to cultivate my own well-being. Why are you here? Fundamentally, don't care who you are, especially if you're blood family. Why are you here as my blood family, who you are damn near obligated to be responsible for me? Why are you here to destroy me? Why are you here to make life difficult when reality is already making it more difficult every day? You don't deserve to be here. Okay? From the escape, we run into an opportunity again. This is why it's important to have a support network, especially in American society, because we can't guarantee when you can transition into having housing, into having your own independent bank account and credit and all types of stuff. A lot of that is long-term transitions. So if it may be too overwhelming for you to endure this process where you need to purge and you need to truly self-discover, if you don't understand like if you don't have a foundation, even a transitional foundation to support you in that process. Because who you are fundamentally as a person is going to change as you are going through this purge process. Because we want to make sure that we are emptying ourselves energetically out of that which the narcissist has attempted to impregnate us with. Sadly, for many people, the narcissist actually impregnates you with a child, and now you are responsible for being in a relationship with a narcissist your whole entire life. But for everybody who's been in a relationship with a narcissist or preyed upon by one, the intention first, which we'll get into later in this, is impregnating you with their energy and then having you and your awareness submit yourself to their energy at the mercy of your own well-being, leaving your body and your connections and your relationships and your own life, probably even your career, at the mercy of serving the well-being of somebody who doesn't have a sense of self and needs you to serve them to support their sense of self. But not only support their sense of self, support the sense of self that they want to see themselves as, because they aren't willing to look at the mirror and see that they're probably a failure. They're probably a fuck up. They're probably a loser. And there's probably a bunch of stuff they need to take accountability and take responsibility for that doesn't align with the way they want to view themselves. But that would cause them to sabotage the mask that they live by rather than sabotaging your life, which they don't have any value for or respect for. Okay? And from our purge process, we're going to go into the rebirth, because many people try to go directly from escape, not even from escape to transition to purge, escape directly to cultivating a new life in an old body. And then they wonder why anytime they have any opportunity, they sabotage it and surrender it to the narcissist. And maybe they're not doing it intentionally, but maybe the narcissist just hangs around and creeps for the sake of, oh, you're winning now without me? Let me remind you that you're not shit without my validation. And then forces you to bend yourself down to them, to humble yourself, to remember who you were when they had control over you. Again, that's why it's important to go through that purge process, because this is going to sound crazy. The narcissist, even when you leave, like physically are separated from them, they emotionally beat you down so hard that they are not speaking to you. Like, they don't speak to you. The narcissist is speaking to themselves that is impregnated in you, that they are hoping through enough trauma and conditioning, you end up respecting their inner voice rather than you respecting your own inner voice, which is probably dysregulated because it's fighting against somebody else's needs and prioritizing somebody else's needs and well-being over its own well-being. And that type of cognitive dissonance will destroy somebody, especially an autistic person who has a lot of difficulties engaging with a narcissistic parent or narcissistic partner, because the autistic is moving so chaotically in relation to their own truth rather than the narcissist who needs to control everything to make sure that they aren't having their mask sabotaged or their soul behind the mask exposed. Because at the end of the day, that's the only reason why you live behind a mask or you integrate your soul with a mask, because you're afraid of going back there even yourself. Because going back there might remind you your parents were shitting on you. Your parents beat the shit out of you. Or something, again, I don't want to say words here, something happened to you that you had, and when you went to go ask for help about that thing that happened to you where you got violated, somebody invalidated that, and that destroyed you. And because of that, now, instead of being able to heal and to grow and to live a life on the other side of acceptance and growth, you are now having shelled your truth behind masks to protect that, probably engaging in opportunities like drugs and alcohol and even mindless sex as a means of escaping this sedation that you're putting your soul through, and then punishing other people in the world that are expressing themselves in alignment with authenticity or the way that you weren't able to accept yourself or you weren't able to get healing from. So you end up becoming a consequence or literally a flying monkey of the narcissist that victimized you in your life, and end up becoming like a perpetuator of the abuse in real world simply because you weren't able to get help for your own situation. This is why it's important for us to address all of this, and for us to know If we genuinely want to address narcissistic healing from and growing through narcissistic abuse, it's going to require a life transformation. This isn't no like, this isn't no, um, yeah, it's, I just had a narcissistic ex and like now I went and found a new partner and we're all happy go lucky. We're all cheery like Cheerios now. Because you can leave a narcissistic relationship and think that you want this new person too, somebody that has wanted you. And you think because you're in a position that needs healing and not is ready to grow and invest in somebody, you just latch onto somebody else because you feel like they are helping you, healing you from the circumstance that you haven't taken part in healing from yourself. Again, healing is not an individual process, but there's a very necessary aspect of healing that requires us to be alone with our true self in a society that literally has us rejecting that and running away from that at every single corner. So we're going to get into it all. We're going to get into everything that I know, everything that I can give you. And again, I'll conclude this slide right here by saying this. I'll only ever be real and vulnerable with you because something that I said at the end of 2023 was like, if I have to lie to people, like I'm just not even going to speak to you. Like I don't know why I'm like just so adamant about being like a real nigga and being exactly the person I say I am and being able to stand on everything that I've said with research, with experience, or with my own like 2 feet. And I want to just let you guys know that this course almost never made it. I felt so hopeless and so just like beat down by my own circumstances. I never even felt as if I made it to the other side of this because my life right now isn't even fully in the position that I want it to be in from this narcissistic abuse, from the other side of leaving my narcissistic family system. But I think doing this course is helping remind me that I've not only not had a foundation, but the foundation that I did have and the opportunities that I had from being talented or gifted in the real world, all of those were sabotaged anyway. If it didn't validate the narcissism, like the validation that my parents needed, or if it didn't just make my parents feel like, oh, this child isn't good because they're actually talented or they're good at anything. This child's only good because they came out of me. And this child really annoys the fuck out of me, and I hate the fuck out of them. And I actually don't want them to live outside of me being able to control them. Um, Again, before I might be getting into too much here, but I just I guess what I'm trying to say is that I had so much imposter syndrome making this course, and I think that's the reason why it's taken so long to come out. And at first, I was hoping that I can make these courses for the sake of having a little bit of money to pay my bills because like when I tell you that I've gone through every bit of the narcissistic fold, the trauma, the isolation, the invalidation, the scapegoating, the slandering, smear campaigns, the financial trauma, like think about this right here. If you think about this right here, my mom worked a full-time job and allowed my dad to work like bullshit jobs to only feed his own like bills. But again, that has to do more with like the patriarchal like marriage psychosis about how like the wife does everything in the house and then just basically the husband gets to just like own it. Um but like a part of the financial trauma is just like my mom had money and just like not only had money but like chose to not support us, invalidated us anytime we had any desire to like need anything that was more than like free. And then she also like there on multiple occasions I've seen she's stolen money from me. And like stolen money from somebody that you don't provide any money to, and they only get money like 1 or 2 times a year, which is like for Christmas. We don't even get money for our birthdays. Like we got money for Christmas, and it wasn't even from my parents. It was from like other family members, and from there it was intercepted and stolen. And then we were given like crumbs off that, and I didn't realize that until I left. And I'm sitting here thinking like, now I sit here and think it's like, okay, not only were you lying about not having resources, you were deliberately denying resources because that's how you felt before the kids came around, and this is how the position you were in with your husband. But instead of leaving, like, again, my situation is crazy, but at the end of the day, it's just like you had resource and you denied your children opportunity to resource because you wanted to pay them back for the trauma that you had to endure. But and they live in a world where like they're not given any help by society or the world, and poor people are punished every day. Like for what? Like just to watch kids suffer? Like it's just, and I think that's what that kind of attributes to is like why like a lot of the times I'm kind of going through my own healing journey. I just start sit there and just start crying so much, bro, because I'm just like life is already so hard, bro. And there's already so much we have to endure and so much we have to go through as whether it's as black people in America, it's as neurodivergent people in an holistic coded society, or it's just as like non-traditional people in a world that wants everyone to be complicit and just like enslaved. It's like you don't only see that like you're not giving them a foundation, you also sabotage the opportunities that the world is presenting. Like you're not even creating, the world is creating opportunities and you're sabotaging those as well. Like, and then now like I guess like I'm making this course for people who go through narcissistic abuse, but like I'm starting to realize I think my parents were sociopaths, to be honest. Because like it's constantly the difficult part about my healing journey is trying to believe that my parents were not as like demonic and villainous as they were, simply because I didn't know that they were using all the validation I got as being this stand up great human being and child to validate themselves, and then they were punishing me with all their own reality, and I was internalizing who they really were while they were getting to internalize everything that the world was validating me to be because I was their kid. And it wasn't because that was who I was and I was still thriving on the other side of all the punishment that I was going through existing as their child. So like it's been about like a year and a half since I left, but still it's whether it's not having a credit card, not having like a mailbox. I can't even use a mailbox anymore because like mail, like all the mail places are sitting here asking for a freaking what's it? Oh, give me your home loan and your mortgage and this and that. Like, dude, the place that I came from denied me opportunity to have any type of identity outside of this shit. Like I'm like a human dog, damn near forced to have human expectations in the real world or else I'm not doing enough, but then forced to be a dog when I get back home, serving people who literally could care less about my own humanity and the expectations that come with it. It's just like, yeah, let's just get into this course, bro. Like this is for everybody who knows that they're meant for so much more than that bullshit that they got forced into. And like I'm telling you, every single day, like I'm telling you right now, like maybe not every day, but like every time I think about this shit, like whether it's where I came from or like my circumstances, I just cry about like I didn't deserve that shit, bro. Like I understand, like it's and it almost like hurts me. Like, and again, I'm not trying to be like mean or anything, but like it almost hurts me to see people who have really amazing parents, bro, just disrespect the fuck out of their parents, bro, or lie to them, bro, or cheat them, or do some stupid shit, bro, like getting like a DUI or something. It's just like, bro, you can get in trouble with the world, bro, and you have people that are gonna support you. I'll get in trouble with the world, and my parents will validate it. Like I go into the world with no help because I'm going home and going to a war zone as well. And it's hard to just sit there and be like, damn, like if I have to fight every fucking person in this fucking life, bro, like why do I even want to even be around any of y'all, bro? Like adults that act like children, bro, like get the fuck out of here, bro. Like I need parents, bro. I need help. I need a family, bro. And to even feel selfish saying that shit, bro, makes me so fucking sick, bro. All right, let's get into phase one. We're going to identify the aspects of like a narcissist and kind of how they attack their prey. Okay. The reason why I even, well, not the reason, but one of the main reasons why I even came up with a course like this is because I knew that I could contribute a lot of value to the traditional or the fundamental understanding of narcissistic abuse. Um, in a very, very condensed sense, you can read this whole entire page. I'd pause it if I were you because I'm going to skip it in like 30 seconds. In a very, very condensed sense, what narcissism is a lack of not only inner awareness, but like a complete lack of inner acceptance. And from that, a void is created. And the void that is so deep, it's not a pit, it's a void. Infinite consumption can take place. And the narcissist ends up creating their identity by latching onto reality outside of them and trying to, I hope I'm using this properly, circumvent the energy of what they've attached themselves to either validate their own desired perceived identity or to give them an identity by extracting the positive qualities or the desired qualities out of their prey and placing it on themselves, like Dorian Gray. We'll get into that Dorian Gray shit a little bit here. But it's a self-serving energy. The reason why I say this is an energetic and even if you want to call it a spiritual conversation is because this has to do with energy. And energy, we live in an energetic reality. Even though we are enslaved to the material, we live in an energetic reality. And that means that people who aren't cultivating themselves in some kind of conscious awareness are at the mercy of stronger, more potent energies. Even if those energies, now again, I'm not saying stronger as in goodness, I'm saying those stronger energies can also be more negative. I don't want to get into the angels and demons aspect of this. This is how I think about it. If we're looking at everything as energy, especially like the souls as energy, I just want all of us to look at that as the sun and a black hole. No angels and demons when we're going to speak about this. The sun is self-sufficient and serves all that can receive its energy. The sun does not need to clock into work. The sun exists. The sun is and serves all that are in proximity or all that can receive. A black hole only serves itself by consuming all that is in proximity. Now, imagine if you put that sun in a person and allow that sun, the energy of that sun, to be love. Because from the ability to love the self and to have that love reinforced through a progressive, like growing structure, a socializing structure, you get to selflessly share that energy outside of you because you understand there's so much more of where that comes from inside of you. The energy is a belief, it's a chosen energy that comes from within you and has to be shared outside of you. It's not an expectation that exists in the world that you're trying to pitch yourself up against, or it's not something that you're chasing in the world because you can't find it within yourself. I hate how it's like we look in this world as us versus them, a this versus that, empath versus narcissist. But just understand this perspective, our understanding and analysis of narcissism. There are people who have a sun inside them. And not only do they cultivate that sun, that inner flame, they share it with the world, and they are a shining light. And there are people who have voids inside of them, whether it's created by trauma or it's created by circumstantial opportunity. Circumstances, I shouldn't have added that last word on there. I just wanted to sound like a freaking philosopher. And it's people who have never had the opportunity to grow into acceptance of that light. And from that, they only know how to serve themselves through the attachments that they make in this world. Even if they can disguise their self-servitude as some kind of mutually beneficial agreement or opportunity. And you guys are going to understand why I say that. We don't understand this properly in our society, but we can just start by this again, because I don't want you guys calling me racist or anything. But the reason why narcissism is a very difficult understanding to have, one, because in the Western world, the whole entire psychological field and anthropology as well is rooted purely in white supremacist eugenicism. I have a whole slide on that, which will be a lot more in depth, but the whole entire thing is rooted in eugenicism. And it's not even we're trying to discover the complexity of consciousness in humanity. Because one, we had to colonize the whole world to even get to this position of supremacy. So now we're just doing experiments on others, quote unquote, non-human people for the sake of understanding them. Fuck no. Because if we wanted to understand them, we would have not have colonized them and corrupted their culture. We would have gone to collaborate with them to share our own findings of our own culture and then actually try to understand you based on your understanding of yourself through the years, generations of self-sufficiency that has existed outside of colonialism. Now, when you live in a society that the overarching philosophy of the society is masters and slaves, rich and poor, the haves and the have-nots, that is an inherently narcissistic system. But because we're not allowed to call this system out, because it's poor people that are victims of this system, and it's not wealthy people that are victims, it's wealthy people that are trying to perpetuate the system, not only are we drowned out from participating in the conversation, but we are made to believe through a bunch of social reinforcement that inequality is actual equality. And the only reason why it may be perceived as inequality is because the people that are victims are getting the short end of the stick actually deserve it. So that means it's equal. And because so many people are just so ignorant, or because the position that they have in society, or the box of ignorance that they exist in is just so comfortable, they'll refuse to see how narcissistic that is and how you cannot perceive society and humanity through that lens. Because if you are perceiving it through that lens of superiority and looking down to understand inferiority, then you're just doing that to validate the psychosis that you have, that it's white people are better than black people, it's men are smarter than women, it's this is more than that, it's you're disabled instead of neurodivergent. That's when we have all these conversations that mean nothing, because we're trying to pit everything against this expectation of inequality that only exists as a consequence of colonialism, not because of human consciousness. In a reality where we're millennia on the other side of attempting to globalize the world underneath a religion and underneath like fear-based warfare, our understanding is at the mercy of the winners, of the leaders of this current culture. And it's purely consumption and corruption. So that's where I believe, again, there's a whole lot of amazing therapists and psychoanalysts that speak about narcissism and understanding it, whether it's Dr. Ramani or it's there's a handful of other people. That's just the only person I could think of right now. But I believe I'm also including a sociological perspective in on it as well, that will allow us an opportunity to do healing that exists so far beyond the bounds of our current collective ignorance that we consider to be common sense. Now, what types of narcissists will we be discussing here, or what kind of circumstances do we end up finding narcissists in our lives? And you know I love the number 3. If you watch my content at all, you know for a fact I love the number 3. So that's how my brain breaks everything up. And it's going to make so much more sense the further in we get into this video or into this series. Okay, I could have listed a bajillion and a half names, which for the traits, which you're going to see here, or here, you're going to see I listed a bunch. But the reason why I listed almost like tiers of narcissist is because I want you, from whatever position you're in, to see how this applies and relates to your own individual circumstance. I want you to see, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm in a narcissistic relationship, but it's not because I'm just like some faulty human being, but it's because when I go deeper in it, oh, I actually got into this relationship because I was running away from a narcissistic household that nobody was helping validate or nobody was supporting me in. So I needed this type of codependent connection to make me feel like I can leverage myself out of here. But I didn't realize I was walking out of that traumatizing situation into a new one that was only not looking as or not appearing to be as traumatizing or potentially traumatizing because it just didn't look similar to, or it looked perceptively better than what I was already experiencing. Or maybe it's a job that you're in. And it's either a coworker that you're having to endure, or it's a manager that you're having to endure, leadership that's really acts self-serving, or just systems that don't support the well-being of all, only support the master or the owner of the system. I want you to know that whatever circumstance you're in, if you're able to identify not only what type of energy the narcissist carries, but what position they put themselves in and what they're even trying to get out of the positions they put themselves in, I guarantee you it's going to be a lot easier for you to address these kinds of people. Because we don't want to just say, this is a narcissist, this is what they do, and then you just start pointing that finger, like pinning the tail on the donkey on everybody. That's not the point of this shit. The point of this is to be able to understand people for people who just make mistakes and people who have ill-mannered intentions, and having to discern between those so we can give people grace when they deserve it, and we can give ourselves grace and walk away from circumstances when we know that we deserve it, because we're not going to put up with bullshit that doesn't respect our own cultivated awareness and our own self-appreciation. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to have a lot of ladies in my community for the sake of that. Traditional patriarchal relationships, like in the heteronormative sense, are very predatory and very like ownership based enslaving. So understand these courses like this are to free you completely from not needing other people. We will forever need community and other people as human beings, but it's to free you from the codependency that society is attempting to drag you into, and then allow you to consciously make the decision as to who you connect with, who you collaborate with, and what type of self-concept you are cultivating and who you allow to support the development of that. So it's very interesting. It's if I had an expectation as to who the people in my community would be, then I would probably not even be able to really broad base my information and really share this with all the people who could genuinely use this information to help themselves and to change their life circumstances for what they can control. So I feel like I keep on like freestyling everything. So I apologize if you come to this, like my courses and my lectures, my healing sessions and my lectures, and you think I'm just going to read word for word like some kind of boring ass professor. Like, nah, 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 nah. I'm a healer. I'm a rock star. I'm a shaman. I'm everything that's super dope and cool. And all I do is freestyle. Punch in, punch in, punch in. I might have said something similar to this a couple of minutes ago, but I shall just add on to it. We're identifying people for the sake of the decision that we have to make about those people in our lives. A lot of our society, especially on social media, is built around like this cancel culture or making sure that people pay for how they did you. All this like revenge stuff. Like, no, 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 no. What they did was so bad, and who they are is bad enough for us to be able to completely redirect our entire Titanic, redirect the whole ship, because we understand how important and how influential external reinforcement is on your personal journey. And the second you become aware of how important that is, that's when you have to start committing to making sure that that investment that is going to you and the reciprocation of you is real. And I was actually, maybe not. No, I won't say that. These One thing you're going to realize though, no matter what the situation is, the The narcissist is a lying sack of shit, one, about everything. And the second you start to track it like one time, two times, three times, you're going to be like, dude, do I even know who you are? And that might be the scariest thing on planet Earth. I don't know if it takes the rage or it's the lying, but once you get to the point where you just like corner all of their masks and all of their identities into the same just area, and they can't run and transition into anything new or to tell you something that like can refract the energy back onto you. Like it's just once you just focus all of your light dead onto this person, it's just like a vampire. The skin just starts to fall right off, and they're all just the same shitty individuals, bro. But I want to remind you, healthy people are very interesting. Healthy people are confrontational, not for the sake of just being confrontational. They're confrontational for the sake of not developing like lingering resentment or animosity for the people that they claim to love in their lives. They confront because they want to address it in real time. Because if you need help, let's get you that help right now. Let's not force you to hold things down and then let that destroy your life and then force you to project that onto somebody else. Like, let's get you the help that you need. And even better, healthy people understand that you can't always be perfect for them. That you have a life to live, you have things to do, you have relationships to uphold, you have, like a being to love, which is yourself, if not children that you have. So it's we're gonna get into this later in as well, but understand this is a world that makes it very convenient to, how do I want to say this? This is a world that makes it very convenient to be a narcissist and very inconvenient to not only heal from this type of abuse, but to share the gift of healing with others and growing with others in your reality. So I hope with you being able to identify these types of people, that's an opportunity for you to see, okay, what type of energy do I believe I am deserving of allowing to cultivate my life and my being in this reality? These people come from any angle, bro, and we're gonna address every single thing. We put the light on everybody. Now we won't spend too much time on this, but here is just some kind of circumstances that help harbor the narcissist and who they are. Whether it's which is weird because it's either, which once we get into the visual, this is going to make a lot more sense. But there's as I was beat down so bad into myself, the inability to properly express myself and love that being that still needs to be loved and express itself. That is what's making me narcissistic and allowing me to cling on like a parasite to others and just drain their energy to serve myself, to fill this void, this child that won't stop crying that sits within me. Or there's the people that have been so like bloated with admiration or I don't even want to call it respect because it's even worse than that. It's with support and well wishes and glazing. I hope you guys know what that word means. I don't know what else to say other than just like dick sucking. But okay, coddled, that's exactly what I'm looking for. There's people who are so coddled, it's their perception of their self, it's not even related into who they are as an identity. And it's also not related into the trauma that they've endured because they also have protection from that trauma as well. It's actually their identity is rooted in the inflated mask that exists outside of them that now makes them feel as if they are bigger energetically than other people. And because of them being bigger, like the sun is to the earth, they feel like others are deserving of or entitled to orbiting around them and servicing their needs because that's all they know. And it's weird, but at the same time, what is the connection that we can make from two contrasting features or identities like that? We can align them both by reminding us the inner child was never properly allowed to express itself because the mask, acceptance of the mask or the cultivation of the mask was much, much more important for the sake of the being accepted or validated by the environment than was investing in the authentic expression of the self and serving that for whatever it could be. Now, a lot of these circumstances, which is very interesting, when you live in a society that prioritizes parental ownership rather than community responsibility as it relates to raising of children, you forget that it's not only the people who have birthed the children that are responsible for caring for them, but all the people in the community or in the village that they are growing up in, and all the potential influences they may have from that engagement that will teach them, hey, a community is more than just who owns. A community is who takes responsibility for making sure all is taken care of, not just who owns the community and who uses that community or leverages that community or family or system to serve their own needs. There's an amazing African proverb that says something like, a child who a child who doesn't feel the love of the family or the village will end up burning it down just to feel its warmth. And I believe that 100%. I believe that 100%. I believe that's a lot as to why we exist in the type of society that we live in, because we only praise the people who are willing to win this game of just like, so it's like this very in a I don't want to say it like that. I don't want to say it like that. There's some things that the only way I can describe them is like very like interesting. But to conclude this aspect or this part right here, I just want to say that we not only allow circumstances and environments for these energies to cultivate themselves, but our society praises the most narcissistic and even at times the most sociopathic types of people that are willing to sacrifice everything, even their own selves, for the sake of success in this system. And because of that self-rejection and self-abandonment, you will be rewarded beyond imaginable compensation for doing that and then influencing others to also participate in this system doing the same. And it inevitably creates narcissists who are fighting against each other to be at the top and to have the crown. It creates a bunch of narcissistic cult-like communities where crabs in a bucket, all the people in the community are dragging, tearing each other down to compete for the top. But they don't realize they're sacrificing all their energy for the validation of the master or of whoever owns the system, rather than humbling themselves to see we will be nothing if we don't sacrifice the crumbs we have together to actually come together and make a cake worth eating that can serve everybody. And then realizing that that one person at the top only exists for the sake of influencing and manufacturing commotion so they can keep stealing from as many people as possible. All right. Let me drink some water first because I've been yapping a lot. Spring water. Get you some. Spring water. And when I say spring water, I'm saying I need you to get in the mountains and you put your Starbucks Stanley cup in the water. You know we don't do that shit. All right. I apologize if you heard that. Recognizing and addressing the abuse. This is going to be very important because I, the Dark Wizard, want you to not only point the finger. I said that wrong because I was going to burp. I don't want you to point the finger at people, especially at a narcissist, because mind you, what did we describe? These people are running away from themselves. And if that's the case, then you have to accept one thing. fundamentally that you pointing the light or directing the light onto them and putting the mirror in front of their face, it's not, it doesn't only lead to, it may not inevitably lead to self-destruction. It could, but it may not directly lead to self-destruction, which is probably what you want and why you're doing that. At the least, accountability. It's going to lead to them punishing you for showing them an aspect of themselves or showing them a reality that they have been trying so hard to protect themselves from acknowledging and from facing. Because that would force them to then question the mask that they've tried to validate so hard through their whole entire life experience, or that would force them to accept the truth that they've spent so much time running from and sedating themselves from addressing. Probably building a whole entire identity on the other side of running away from that trauma. So to protect your well-being and to protect the well-being of everybody in your circumstance, and also to not alert the person that is in relationship with you that you have intentions of leaving, because even that can cause for more opportunities for abuse. We're going to do a lot of mental work here to understand, to see if we can identify these people through their behaviors, through how they act. Again, we can, a lot of these slides, especially like the long list slides, more so than not, we've already described the philosophical understanding behind it. It's, and the energetic understanding, which is the most important. Because you can have two narcissists, one that grew up in a household where they had nothing, they were dead broke and had nothing, and everybody's just feeding off of stealing from each other. And you can have a narcissist that grew up in a house that had everything except love and the ability to accept the self. So we're not trying to look at circumstances or externals for an understanding of our narcissist. We're looking for the internal, as internal as we can get, and how the internal expresses itself, because that allows us to see, okay, that gives us the visual as to what this energy, the energetic signature is inside of it. Is it a sun? Is it something that is shooting out energy because it's selflessly shooting out energy, understanding, knowing of its abundance? Or is it a void? And is it only projecting out, casting nets into the world to capture new prey? And from that prey, we'll explain that in a couple of later slides. But the point I even included this, you can pause this and you can read through all of these, because again, I'm not going to explain through all of them. I understand you guys, one, know how to read and you know how to comprehend. And if for a lot of this, it's going to be very circumstantial. You might get a 1, 3, and a 5 on one side, but you might have a 2 and a 6 on the other side. Or you might have 1 on this left side and then all 10 on the right side based on a circumstance. It's very circumstantial, so I don't want to get into the definitions. We have Webster's Dictionary, we have Merriam-Webster, all that type of shit. I'm getting into the energetic, the spiritual understanding of this to help you realize this is damn near a vampire. This is a very, very, very vampiric energy. And isn't it interesting how the vampires can't last in the sun? And they have to only exist in the darkness and the shadows. And they suck blood. They feed on other living in the sun human beings. It's very interesting, huh? It almost seems like vampires and that whole philosophy was actually a very early understanding of what it means to be a narcissist. An energetic narcissist, at least. Final thing, because I had to sit here and think about like the last thing I wanted to say before I moved on here. The reason why it's very difficult to address, especially to confront narcissists, is because one, you'll never know if they genuinely believe the bullshit that they're selling you. That's scary, because then you're at the mercy of them not believing it, which they could believe that they are who they think they are through everything, at the mercy of anybody's life even. So I want you to understand, if you're looking for the narcissist in your life, especially if it's not like detrimental to your well-being, staying in the circumstance that you're in, tracking behaviors, understanding how people respond to certain circumstances, see how people express themselves, see why people express themselves. What is the intention? Are you only performing this for the sake of getting validation or maintaining me in a relationship with you? Or are you doing this because this is who you are and you're allowing that to shed the people who don't really fuck with you for the sake of creating room for people who do? This is why we get our mind tool right. This is why we get our mind tool right. This is how you get the mind tool right. Because you're gonna realize, especially when you like more times than not, like when you're enjoying this type of abuse, you're in a narcissistic system that is enabling the abuse. And because that's happening, it's just increasingly with every experience you have, it is increasingly more and more and more hopeless into believing in good people that don't behave like this, like adult children, for the sake of serving their own, like whether it's a fetish or fantasy, just the own desire to have ultimate control over somebody that is completely codependent to them. Again, another crazy thing that healthy people do, they actually support you in being independent because they're not afraid that you're just going to take from them to then serve yourself and then like mooch on them. They understand that everybody needs help in being self sufficient. And that's what we're here for. We don't just watch people suffer individualized and alone and then say, well, you could have been successful, could have been better, and then blame them for not being able to take care of themselves while not providing them any assistance ourselves. Like healthy people don't do that. It's such a backwards world because you had to believe in the psychosis of the narcissist to survive in your reality. But you forget that that psychosis doesn't exist in reality. It only exists in the narcissist's control, and you only get to submit to it or only have to submit to it in their control. That's why they try to isolate you and to corner you in that energy to make you feel like their reality and their circumstances, one, you deserve them, and two, are real. So even when you leave, the only reality you know how to exist in is theirs. And the only validation you know how to receive is theirs. All right. I know I called this how innocent attachments turn into eternal enmeshment. And that may lead you to believe that I'm only speaking about romantic relationships here. You have to realize this also happens in familiar relationships. Love bombing isn't only like having good sex or like going on dates. Love bombing is a tactic used to completely invalidate the abuse that is going down. For the sake of, again, if you have any hope left, for the sake of making sure that the only bit of it exists solely in the hands of the narcissist that owns you. And you, in believing and attaching yourself and the last bits of hope, completely plugging it into the narcissist that has nothing to show you, that allows you, when in clinging into your hope, that allows them to jab, 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 and normalize the abuse that is happening. And then not only normalize, but slowly increase the level of abuse that they're showing you. And you're willing to put up with it because you're still so deeply believing in or hoping for, waiting for this love bombing and this respect and appreciation that's going to come for you. But it's not going to come. The only reason why it even happens is to make sure you, one, don't leave, and two, can be a sedative to the abuse that you're enduring alongside it. This is why like it's so hard for me for when people say like, why didn't you just leave? Or like a lot of like victim blaming happens because you don't understand the narcissist, especially if they're a bad person, a bad person who's just a bad person, they don't just get to exist. And then people, okay, some people do, but they don't just get to sit there and not protect their behaviors. They have to manipulate, and they have to coerce, and they have to convince people to believe in the mask. More times than not, a narcissist will go to somebody who already has low self-esteem or is already hating of themselves or needing of that codependent external salvation, and they'll just latch right on, which we'll get into in a description here. But they'll just latch right on and then give you the connection, the acceptance, the validation that you aren't familiar with. Even worse, love bombing, which is not just giving love, but bombing you with love, blowing up your whole whatever circumstance, to where you go from not having enough to having way too much, to then having that way too much ticked down by the abuse over time, to where you never at any point during this circumstance, which again, the reason why we even addressed going from escape to purge instead of escape to cultivate, is because you can, if you don't understand these are like the loops and the circumstances that you're in, you will keep finding yourself in circumstances like this. Not like thinking that the world is trying to punish you, but it's not. It's because you keep on going outside of yourself, looking for people to give you the only, like something that only you can give yourself, which is awareness and acceptance. Now, as you're, okay, no. There was actually a different conversation that I wanted to have, and then I kind of ran off from, so I apologize. But it's the thing that's so difficult about when people say like, why didn't you just leave, is because the love bombing is meant to disguise the abuse. The love bombing is meant to exploit the last bit of hope that you have, if you have any at all. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that from the inside of the relationship, there is an active chase happening for hope, for acceptance, for validation. But the external world doesn't get it. The external world just isn't keen on that, isn't aware of that. And then they want to see this person is choosing to be abused. This person is choosing to be punished. That's not the case at all. That's what you guys refuse to understand. Now, as this disrespect is happening, like it's the love bombing, it's very integrated, purposefully integrated. Um, but as it's happening, the narcissist wants to make sure that as they're integrating their reality into you, they're isolating you from people who have the potential of destroying the psychosis that is being imposed onto you. Separating you from support systems, separating you from family members if you have like a healthy family system, separating you from friends, while all attempting to convince you that these people aren't good for you, and that if they were, they would show you the same, if not more love than the narcissist is showing you. Again, playing back on the love bombing. Getting you to think, oh my goodness, this person who is showing me this excessive amount of love without genuinely caring about me, almost like they're trying to buy my attention and my presence, they must have better intentions for me than the people who actually care about me in my life outside of how I can serve them. And in this process, and again, it's not just an automatic, like for some people it is, but it's not just an automatic isolation. Once you get into that point, the reason why I highlighted this, the parasite is integrated, is because the narcissist can't, the second you recognize you're being abused, you have a very great chance of either asking for help or leaving the situation. So the narcissist has to make sure that you don't even respect your own self, your own awareness, that there is an other, and the other is them, and it's impregnated into your own psyche for the sake of every time you question yourself, every time you think, I shouldn't be here, I deserve better than this, I should be somewhere else, I should be pursuing my own path, not serving this person who doesn't like me. Instead of serving that voice, that calling of your own soul, you automatically revert back to invalidating that and then serving the critic that was impregnated into you by the narcissist that says, I don't deserve anything more than this. Who am I? I don't do anything. I'm not worthy of respect. I'm not worthy of, I can't, negative, 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 negative. Well, let me just go back to the narcissist because that's more convenient. And I don't have to keep thinking about how negative my life would be without them if I just kept them in it. Mad overwhelming, mad overwhelming. And from this, either from this existential like loneliness where you are taken and individualized completely from your support system and then just actively like abused in a way that other people can't protect you or can't help you from that. This is where the second the narcissist has decided that you can endure major or more extreme forms of abuse that won't allow you to leave the circumstance, that's a means of it's not even at this point, it's not even testing anymore. They know they got you. Now this is just how much can I do to make sure that I can still somehow attribute this behavior to an act of love or the intention of love. And when this type of stuff starts happening, if not beforehand, the isolation, that's when you as an individual, which we'll get to a little bit later, you start to invalidate your own abuse for the sake of still seeking the acceptance and validation of the narcissist. It's a, it's like a, it's like entering an amusement park. Actually, that's not. It's not even. It's not even fun. It's just the. I one of the main reasons why I made this slide is because I want to remind people how it's so much deeper than just, oh, well, if I knew that person was toxic, I would have got up and left. Like, it's so much more complex than that. And without being able to have grace and to share respect and just like, like have patience for people who are enduring this circumstance, it's going to be hard for us as people outside of the situation to help those who are enduring it. And it'll also be much, much, much harder for the people who are in the situation to ever wake up from the psychosis that they're in and then be like, okay, I'm ready to cut this shit out. Because again, they, even in their own perpetuation of the trauma, they don't realize that they're sabotaging their life, their independent life and support system for the sake of further enmeshing themselves with the narcissist, not realizing it because they think that, again, them and the narcissist are one. And the worst part about living in a society where any fucking buddy can have a child is that narcissists love to impregnate their partners as a means of controlling them. Narcissists love to have kids, and even worse than that, they love to have kids that they are not going to take care of. Only because you get to strap down your partner with that. And in a society where we already dehumanize and we already blame women, and we already have stigmatized single motherhood, we're put into a position to where the narcissist, the father of these children that won't get taken care of, now gets to play on the patriarchal psychosis of society by, if the woman doesn't take care of her kids that you forced into this woman, she's the issue and she needs to be punished more. All you got to do as a man is just pay your child support, as long as you keep making more money than the woman. So and that's why I just sit here and think. And I'm starting to even realize, the more I look at my own kind of history, I think I was me and my siblings were children of that. My mom didn't want to be in the United States, and my parents came from Africa, and I'm almost 100% sure that it was like an arranged marriage situation, and my mom didn't want to be in the United States anymore because my dad was like an absolute fucking loser, like not like a criminal or nothing, just an absolute loser. Like, was not a man, didn't take my mom on any dates, didn't pay any bills, didn't do anything. Like, just everything he did was for himself, and then everybody in connection to him was just like a slave to serving him. But since he didn't have any friends, and you don't make any community doing that, he only had us and his like narcissistic family. But I'm 100% sure. And an interesting thing about that circumstance is because I was able to kind of get to that conclusion because there's a handful of the trauma that I had endured under the hands of my mom. And I realized that this this is so bad. This isn't even coming from the perspective of somebody who like is looking at their child and trying to like correct or punish their child. This is coming from the hands of like, I never even wanted you to be here anyway. And every single second that you stress me out outside of the natural stress that I have to endure makes me hate you even more because you never had to be here. But you had to be here because this other person that I don't even like forced you to be here. And I had to take care of you and he won't take care of you still. And now I have to take care of you through your life. And that shit makes me hate you even more. I know I laugh, but like this is laughing on like the other side of so many tears after just like wanting to be like have my own family and have be respected by my own people, bro, and for them to just like see like, hey, you can change, bro, and this could actually be something so great for us, but they're just like, no, you're a fucking psychopath for wanting to like mental health and to like care about us and to heal. So you should go die. And we're just gonna continue to act like you're some like psychotic, mentally ill fuck that like doesn't like that hates his family and like doesn't want to participate in this group psychosis. It's just so weird, bro. And I want to conclude this slide by saying the we have to stop acting like narcissists are stupid. We have to stop acting like these people aren't praying, like premeditating a lot of this shit. And again, for some people, especially like relationship wise, it may just be like, oh, well, that person just gets a lot of girls or whatnot, or this person is just very attractive. So like that's just how they navigate the world and all that. But like I'm telling you right now, it's just I don't even know where I was gonna go with that, honestly. But I'm gonna take a little chill pill here, drink some water, and then figure out where we're gonna keep going with this. One thing that you're gonna realize too, though, is that the none of this will ever be the at no point in this journey, at least when you're enduring like a narcissist, you will never find peace. And that's why I think narcissists love preying on the vulnerable or people who are already traumatized or already have low self-esteem because they want somebody who's already like normalized anxiety and normalized overwhelm in their own psyche so they can just take advantage of that, provide a false sense of salvation, and then basically just like reinvigorate the fuck out of that trauma into a codependent relationship that they can live off of. Because again, a narcissist doesn't reciprocate energy, especially healthy energy. A narcissist simply seeks to parasite and to exploit supply. The point, again, we'll further reinforce this later. The point of this is to convince you to believe in an aspect of them that is not real, to endure their abuse, seeking their validation, and then invalidate the abuse you've endured to other people to further enmesh yourselves and further validate whatever identity of the narcissist is projecting for the sake of saving themselves at the mercy of, again, your well-being. So stop blaming people who are in these situations. Sometimes you just have to like let them endure enough of the experience to realize that this is not something that they want. And for a lot of us, especially those of us who consider ourselves to be healers or empaths, it's hard seeing people like perpetuate these circumstances with their own hands and not knowing how much of a role that they're playing. But sometimes we like, you never know when the one experience is for somebody to be like, okay, I'm done with this shit. You never know when it's going to be. And if you are choosing it for somebody rather than allowing them to choose it for themselves, it's going to be very, very difficult to see or to even believe in them committing to it because it's not authentic to them. That's what's so important about being present in your own life experiences and being real with yourself, because there are certain experiences that are trying to alert you to, hey, I want to change my life. I want to change my circumstances. I don't want to go through this again. And because you don't listen to that, but you keep on going for the thing that you want, you don't realize that you're setting yourself up to fail and to get everything blown up in your own face, or to lose access to even be able to make decisions for yourself. Because you spent so much time, again, externally seeking completion that was only ever going to come from literally not even seeking it, but creating it within yourself. And it's interesting too, because we live in a society that's like super, a lot of people are so just like properly placed in the limbo of either being accepted or rejected, that the only control or power that they have is just like policing through shame other people's self-expression and other people's pursuit of acceptance in our society. So many people just exist in like groups of like shit talking communities or like gossip groups instead of like actual communities where anything's actually getting done, all to, again, reinforce either the leadership of the master of this community or to reinforce that everybody who exists in this community is completely self-sacrificial for the sake of gaining the validation of the master. And the master could be your partner, it could be your parent, it could be your boss, but again, it's all to serve the person who is benefiting the most from extracting the energy of the commotion and the division of the people in the community. Now, this is what we came here to do. This is what we came here to do. Personally, this is my perspective as to how a soul attaches itself to the body and integrates itself into reality. And from there, we're going to describe my perspective as to BPD, like a corrupt soul, and just what I think a narcissist looks like. So I think this is pretty good graphics, if you ask me. And yeah, that's my handwriting too. A little freestyle. But we don't have to get too religious or philosophical with, God created you in 7 days and all of this. Like, okay, all we're going to say is that there's a metaphysical and there's a physical side to your body. There's a soul energy that attaches itself to the physical. We don't have to get into any scientific aspect of this at all, other than there's a connection that's made, and the connection is turned on either right before or while you enter this reality. And that connection, forgive me, I had to burp again. The reason why it's so important to, what I was saying earlier, have a village raise the children of the community rather than parents own their responsibility of the children, is because it's important for that soul to be woken up inside through experience, through education, through awareness, through opportunity, through engagement. That soul needs to be woken up inside, and it needs to be invested in through love, through care, through respect, to express itself authentically through that shell that is a human body. But because we live in a society that not only forces us to reject our own inner universe, but also compete against each other for standards of humanity that exist outside of us, which are really just like Eurocentric standards so they can feel good about themselves. So many of us reject that soul or suppress, even go out of our way to suppress that soul in here, so we can force ourselves into a position to be so self-rejecting and personally invalidating that we seek a savior outside of us, but a savior to save us or a savior to complete us. A savior to complete us. And it's either a savior to complete us Or if we're already like a broken, like marginalized or culturally rejected identity, then we're seeking acceptance. I hope I didn't just say that twice. I hope I didn't say that twice. But this can either, the two main types of trauma that I'll say reinforce this type of improper development are growing up in a circumstance where like everybody is fighting for the acceptance of like the patriarch of the family, like some kind of succession story. It's, oh, the dad has billions of dollars, this, and all the kids are just nepo babies, and they're all fighting to see who's going to make the most money. So that is, I cannot support myself, or I cannot accept myself without that of an other. More times than not, when you seek validation and completedness in the outer world, you're only going to attract people who are seeking to exploit you in your incompleteness by filling you up with something that's not real for the sake of being able to control you for whatever value you can provide on the back end of that. Now, what's interesting about the proper development, properly being able to invest in that soul and letting that express itself into the world and opening itself up to the gifts and the abundance that come on the back end of that, you realize that you, in that process of expressing yourself authentically, are one, you're going to wake up a whole bunch of insecure people who aren't, especially people who are suppressing their truth. Your truth expressed will resonate with them. But if they have that truth suppressed through trauma, like just actually having that beat down in them, or just negatively reinforced, like they're not allowed to be somebody other than what the mask or the family expects them to be, they might negatively react. Either negatively reacting to you expressing yourself authentically because they never got the opportunity to, or they'll lash out of their own experiences or their own circumstance, attempting to align with this energy that you're expressing that resonates with them so much. Which is like white kids listening to rap music. In the simplest sense, it's like white kids listening to rap music. But an even more interesting aspect about this is when you are so much of yourself, you're not only shooting off this energy, this authentic, unique, energetic signature to the world to be made uncomfortable with, but you're also shooting off that energy to be received and appreciated by people who are expressing themselves in aligned ways, in some kind of aligned, energetic way. So now, instead of you being the source of everybody's happiness or the source of everybody's sustenance, you can align yourself in reality with other people who are also self-sufficient in energy like this, or also creative and can dig from within and share creatively. And that's going to allow you to realize that abundance is only exponentially increased by applying that to a community rather than attempting to just monopolize all communities and exploit them for whatever they have. But not to get too philosophical, or not to get too sociological here. We'll get there at some point. Like your soul is supposed to permeate the shell. It's supposed to. And then your shell becomes a consequence of that which you not only you're expressing yourself with, but how the world reflects that self-expression back to you. Whether it's through like material items, it's through like art and like tattoos and piercings, through the music that you listen to, but you expressing yourself one way transforms the outer reality you live in. Could get you punished, but it transforms the outer reality you live in, creating the space for people who are also aligned energetically. Maybe not status wise or financially, but energetic, they're aligned with you. And that's the most important thing that we can find. Now, this improper development, for whatever reason it happens to be, is going to walk us into not only the vulnerable prey, but the narcissist again, which we described earlier in this as there is no acceptance of the soul. Mind you, I'm not saying that there's soulless people. There's people who act very sociopathic and very soulless on this earth, but you have to remember it's an inability to accept the soul. and the truth that is within. Whether it's because of trauma, it's because you weren't able to have a childhood because you had to grow up in like you had to hop off the porch and get in the streets, or maybe it's because your parents who are like super successful rock star, superstar, or whatever, they just genuinely are too rich and famous to give a fuck about you, and the only people that cared about you are the nannies. But they fired the nannies, and now you're basically just isolated, rich, and you're hanging around a bunch of other rich kids that don't know why they're rich, but have a bunch of things off the backs of people who they probably will never know and they disrespect culturally. Could be from a handful of different positions, but what we are highlighting here is that it's an inability to put a mirror in front of the face and to look within the soul and accept that what it sees in there. And because of that, it needs to go attach itself to other people, probably other vulnerable people, but attemptively, I hope that's a word, other people who have stronger self-sufficient energies for the sake of not only being able to exploit the supply, but also being able to, through extracting the positive traits and reinforcement from that supply, create a mask that they can accept or they can want to be like. And then from basically draining the life force out of their victims, they get to be this illusion of a person that they can finally accept because they refuse to go within to see who they really are. One, accept that. Two, and then three, alchemize that, because you can't live with that self-awareness of that deep void and then attempt to continue to extract that out of other people without it being anything but sociopathic. And personally, that's where I draw the line at the narcissist and the sociopath. The narcissist is acting almost purely instinctively to a very, very traumatized inner being. A sociopath is not only acting instinctively. A sociopath damn near like acts in a Machiavellian way, in the sense that they're doing at all cost to get to the means, but it's them in a premeditated sense knowing the risk as to what they're doing. Knowing that I'm doing this for the sake of serving myself. And again, I'm not saying that narcissists don't know what they're doing and they're not premeditated, but a sociopath is knowing, almost aroused at the knowing that they are sabotaging and sacrificing somebody else's opportunity, especially somebody else's opportunity to take care of their well-being, when the opportunity to support is literally right over. This is why there's a question mark here instead of a star, because there's not nothing in there. If you're alive, you have something in there, because we can't just attribute you being alive to just like the biological nature of your being. There's something that's there, but there's something that is being so deeply rejected, and that rejection is punishing not the self. That rejection, it's so invertedly like rejected that it ends up like coming out the back end in 8 different arms to come out and destroy like everybody that's in its presence. But because we've allowed this, this should allow us to get to a point where we say, okay, the narcissist can't face themselves. So whether it's us needing to isolate them, it's us needing to track their behaviors and what they're really doing and track how they lie. It's us being able to see behind all the masks that they wear when they really are just one person with probably like a very, very bad mental health disorder. They there's just no, there's nothing. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Sometimes I'll say half of something and then my brain just like jumps off a cliff and then there's nothing else. But I want us to realize that something I'm starting to realize, and this is kind of fairly recent as it's come into my head, a lot of the pain that we go through with the narcissist in our lives, it's not necessarily the direct trauma. Yes, there is trauma that we've endured with narcissists, but I think the hardest pain and some of the deepest trauma that we can go through is still caring about them. And because we care about them, we believe in them. And because we believe in them, not only do we put up with the lies and the bullshit, but we also invest our real healing energy and love into them, thinking that it's going to do anything but go straight down a drain of to abyss of nothingness, just a wasteland of exploited love and care and appreciation because it just doesn't mean anything. It's just like it's just like a snack, like food to just be eaten and discreted at some point, but not to be appreciated and respected. Because if they did, then there would have to be some kind of care for reciprocating that energy. The mirror. I'm telling you right now, the you're as grandiose and as amazing as a lot of narcissists may look, especially the ones in your life, especially like if it's your parents. Ask yourself if there's anybody in their life that doesn't reinforce themselves for how they want to be seen, or just try to do research on your own. Most narcissists, especially narcissistic parents, they don't have any friends, and you know what they blame it on? Well, I had to raise my kids. You didn't even raise them. You should still have friends. No, you're a shit human being. That's why you don't have friends. So now that we're kind of, I'm a little blurry. Okay. Now that we've gone out of our way to understand the what I perceive a narcissist to be energetically, let's go about how they're going to go conquer our broken soul. Mind you, I know I say broken soul, but I don't mean that by like saying there's something wrong with you, because there's a handful of ways that an improper soul development can happen, many of which are because society chooses to not accommodate people because they're not rich. And that's where like 99% of our issues come from. Depriving everyday people of access so rich people can get like feel like gods amongst peasants, and then poor people have more issues that don't get solved because the only person that should be there to solve them are going to be the blonde descendants, that for the Aryan descendants of blonde Jesus that was born in Africa, that is supposed to basically, like on the back end of colonization, supposed to sedate the colonized people into accepting the full enslavement to colonial reality. But if we can go back to that love bombing, the process of innocent attachments turning into enmeshed, eternal enmeshment. I wish I got that right the first time. If we can accept that, then it's when you don't have that expressed self, especially an expressed self in a way, like in a way that shows you, hey, are you aligning with me or rejecting me because of you see who I am? When you're in a position like this, like you haven't expressed your soul, you haven't accepted yourself in a way where you can grow out from the self. One, you don't even know what's sitting inside you, and you don't even know how much value you have and you're sitting on. One and one B, I guess. And then two, you can never tell if somebody's genuinely accepting you simply because you're in a predatory position, or they're accepting you because they genuinely want to help see you get to a point where you go from an unexpressed to an expressed soul. Because again, you can be one person with your soul not expressed and then be a whole other person with this soul expressed, because this comes with confidence. This comes with self-acceptance. This comes with not giving a fuck as to what people think, especially if they don't understand. Something that you won't resonate with on this other side of improper development and lack of authentic expression. So it's so important for the narcissist to claim people that are already confused and not ready to fully express themselves, because the narcissist more times than not in that love bombing process is telling you everything you want to hear to believe them. So it's okay to validate the predatory nature, the predatory control that they will have over the relationship. And then through that, again, those series of the system of abuse, cycles of abuse, That's when they integrate the parasite onto you, when they get you, instead of respecting and investing in the star, they impregnate you with their own star and they make you serve their star. You directly prioritize serving their star. Forgive me, we're getting money every day here. And then instead of serving your star, which is who you really are, then this is why it's so important that we address it like this. They claim who you are. And in this Venn diagram, the narcissist will receive all the positive validation and aspects of your identity and claim that for themselves, while impregnating you with all the negative, confusing, shitty parts of their identity so you can hate yourself more. And that can put you in a position to then further seek to serve your identity or serve the narcissist identity to hope that you can complete yours through their validation, which is never going to come. Because if they gave you validation, then you just leave, because then you realize the whole entire world, as somebody who the whole entire world, if they were able to see the value that you can provide and really be there for you and know what you've been through, they'd be there for you a million more times than what the narc wants to be there for. But it's the jabs of you're not good enough. Nobody's gonna want you. Nobody likes you. You're too ugly. You're this. You're fat. It's just all these like subtle jabs over time, and then the big blows that come out of nowhere, which is all just forced deregulation, premeditated, forced dysregulation. Forgive me, as a means of controlling you through chaos. And the only convenience, the only peace that you ever have is when the narcissist decides to turn the jets off the fucking hot tub. But other than that, the jets are going to be on full blast the whole time. The reason why I say this is my perception of BPD, because one, I think that the reason why the understanding of BPD is so poor in America and the Western world is because we're trying to find a medication that we can use that is we're trying to find like a neo antipsychotic that we can use to just like slap on all people who have borderline personality disorder, then actually trying to understand it and then see that a bunch of these people are actually like autistic or super childhood trauma survivors, and they're expressing themselves in a very broken, fractalized way because they don't understand they are not the victim. They're not a consequence of their trauma. They are a victim of somebody who has endured trauma and need to address the trauma and address that bullshit that is a consequence of that before even getting to a foundation to decide what their needs are and how to go about serving those needs. Again, all leads back to this is an energetic conversation, which is going to be very difficult for Western psychologists to have because they are super biological. They don't care about the energy, and anything that's too complex energetically, they just submit to religion. And then we have circumstances like this where they can just feed you drugs that mean nothing because, again, many, if not most, of the foundational, fundamental mental health and psychiatric prescriptions in the Western world were created to shut white women up in the household. They weren't created to better anybody's mental health because then you'd have to address systems in our society, not individualizing things like depression and anxiety and hysteria. All right. Let me sip some more water. H2O lean, same thing. H2O lean, same thing. H2O lean, same thing. Ray Shremmer, I don't even know why I'm saying this right now, but no, I got to. Channel message. Ray Shremmer and Travis Scott, but I'm gonna say Ray Shremmer in their prime was top tier. And Lil Uzi. Those are black rock stars to me. Those are black rock stars to me. Playboy Cardi a little bit, but I'm sorry, guys. Uzi, Travis, and this other dude. How did I forget already? And Race Reverend. And Race Reverend. Okay, now let's get into it. I included this. I hope you guys didn't hear that. I included this final section of this first part just to help us as a collective really understand that we aren't, excuse me, we may also participate in our own trauma or the endurance and continuance of our own trauma if we aren't willing to be aware enough and to accept what we have been indoctrinated and conditioned to become, which is completely self rejecting to be externally serving for salvation. All right. Again, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I think this is huge now that we just make a whole slide for it. When you're impregnated with the narcissist inner critic, you're conditioned to chase validation that doesn't care about you. Like I really want us to be aware with that. You're Let's go back here. This the narc comes, and when the narc colonizes and attaches themselves to you, it's perceived as, oh, this person is just watching me, like helicoptering me, because they care more about me than other people. If other people cared as much as the narcissist does, then they'd be here and they'd be hounding my phone every 2 seconds and they'd be telling me what to wear when I go out to hang out with my girlfriends. You see how crazy that sounds? So I want you to be able to discern, because this is just good for any relationship. When you have completely rejected yourself to chase the acceptance of the narcissist, I want you to ask yourself, is that acceptance going to be anything like being able to actually having all your needs met without being indebted to somebody else who is going to inevitably hold that over your head to make you feel like you're not shit, even though you've probably built your whole entire self up on your own and they're just feeding off of that? Thank you. Okay, we're gonna, again, because you know I love the number three different levels to where this narc inner critic will destroy your life for the sake of making sure that not only you validate the narcissist, but the narcissist can keep control over you. So at the end of the day, a lot of this is for control. A lot of what the narcissist does is for control, and it's not control because they just feel like they're high and mighty. Sometimes they do. More times than not, it's because they're so insecure as to how they'll respond if they lose what they have ownership over, or if they just lose control completely. They're afraid. That's one of the things that'll get you to separate, especially like healers that are like self-proclaimed healers that haven't really gone through like the work. It's And I already forgot what I was going to say there. Forgive me. I already forgot what I was going to say there. No, no, no. I remember it. It's coming. It's on the tip of my tongue. I forgot it. If I remember it, I'll tell you guys a little later. But the first thing, first, which is you could be going through this in a family or even in just like a direct intimate relationship. Abandoning personal opportunities to grow your life because your success makes the narcissist insecure. Personally, every single thing that I had, like to access happiness and like opportunity outside of one that could fuel the validation of my narcissistic parents, was sabotaged. And then on top of that, it was sabotaged by them, but then told to the world that it was my fault for sabotaging things and not finishing things. But then when they were all my opportunities were sabotaged, And then I was incentivized in supporting that because I was told, oh, but look at your mom and your dad. We want to give you, not even my dad. My dad's a piece of shit. Your mom wants to give you opportunity. I want to give you assistance and help you, but I can't if you have all these other obligations. Fake, fake. Everything, my whole entire life, everything that I love, even things that they didn't even participate in. My whole baseball career, they barely even showed their face, bro, because it was just so unimportant. But I didn't realize it was because that made them insecure. That actually, me being successful in the world showed them, hey, you can't just hate this kid. Like, these aren't kids that nobody gives a fuck about and you can just abuse in the house. The world cares about these kids and the world cares about this one. And every day that they're out here getting love and support and all this, it being exposed that you hate this fucking kid, bro. Now, you don't just not like this kid. You hate this kid. So why don't you just destroy all this kid's opportunities and then blame him for being a failure or a reject or a loser fuck instead of you seeing, oh, you don't want him to win at all. But you still set the expectation up to win as if you're not absolutely destroying every single aspect of that. Because me winning means me leaving and actually living my own life and not being the husband son that I was emotionally ancestrally incentivized to be. Like, how sad is that, bro? Like, you can't even win around these people. And even worse, like, it's even worse when they subtly do it too. Like, you win is something you've been working at for so long and they just say, well, anybody gets that. Anybody could do that. Like, why do you care so much? Just as a means of getting you to feel like your life is just not shit in relation to the greatness that they are, even though they're probably not shit. So it's little aspects like this you need to really present in your relationship, especially early on. You need to start tracking these and becoming very aware of these early on, because healthy people don't do this shit. Healthy people aren't not going to choose to be in a relationship to sabotage somebody else's well-being when they could have just not been in the relationship in the first place and allowed you to be who you needed to be and appreciated that from the outside. Because those people don't need to control you, especially if that control is invalidating the path that you need to be on. That just sounds like a selfish person. It sounds like all these guys that get that marry or even date these like superstar ladies just to get them pregnant. Just to remind you, like, oh, you had a tour going, you have a concert going, you have all these performances going, and all these things to go to. Yeah, you're gonna actually raise my kid. You like this is warfare. And I think that's why my brain works the way it does, and it's so difficult for me to like trust even like basic goodness because it's just like bro, this is psychological warfare. It's like coming home from school after getting beat down, just every day, bro, just for not being for damn near being neurodivergent and not knowing it because my parents held that back from me as well because that was going to be another thing to be ashamed about having a fucking autistic ADHD kid. Crazy. Let's move on to the next one. Losing your friends and relationships because you're invalidating the sabotage of your own life in the favor of acceptance or validation of the narcissist or the cult in it. Again, this kind of goes back to me. If you knew who I was before I started this Dark Wizard Disney stuff, I played a little bit of baseball, and it's I didn't even realize that I wasn't even like closing the door on my own life opportunities or relationships um, for the sake of chasing the validation of my parents. I was like, I was just so overwhelmed with them being able to present this mask, not even just them, but my mom really being able to present this mask of like victimhood and just never doing anything wrong to society. And then just leveraging that to invalidate any of the trauma that I could have ever endured. So then when I did need help and I did need to get up and leave and escape the sociopathy of that freaking household, I just had nobody. And if the only people that I did have all believed the lies of my masked parents, but I had to endure the reality of that. And even worse, I think about all the times when I was telling my friends, like, oh, I can't hang out or I can't do this, I can't do this. And like, it wasn't for any other reason but the sake that, like, my mom was like jealous that, oh, I had friends that wanted to go hang out, or my mom is jealous that like, oh, I was able to go take a girl to a dance. And like my dad would never take her on any dates whatsoever. So she's like, you know what? Like, no, like you can't do anything. And that's another thing that I realized too, like a lot about my mom, and why like I had to go no contact with both my parents as much as like, and I'm a mama's boy too, but I had to go no contact with both of my parents, which is sad as fuck. Sad as fuck, bro. Like I think, and one of one of the hardest parts for me is that, and this is why I want to share this with you guys so much, is because it's not just one thing that I could have been that I had sabotaged. There's a million things I could have been. And I could have been not only been, but like been on the path of pursuing and seeing much more success much earlier than I could have ever dreamed of. But it's the constant, again, sociopathic level of sabotage. That is, you can't have any fucking thing. I brought you into this world to be nothing but a slave. Or I brought you into this relationship to do nothing other than serve me. I think I think so much about all the times where I thought that I was doing right by my parents, bro, because that's what a respectful child does, or because that's what a stand up human being does, not knowing that they were purposely sabotaging my life for the sake of making sure that they could, the little bit of power they had in this world, which was just abusing their kids, they could get every fucking drop of it. Because again, they had no real friends. Again, my mom's only friends were people that would validate her in the ways that my dad wouldn't, or like her again, because she's isolated. Um, and it's just it's a cult, bro. It's an absolute fucking cult. Because how can people like, when you're out here now, not only like validating your own trauma or invalidating your own trauma, but now projecting that invalidation to other people, people can't help you. Because the thing that you need help from, saving from, is the thing that's convinced you to now start being a marketer for it. And that's where it's like, it's so much harder to like have friends when they want what's best for you, but the person who hates you has convinced you that they're the only person that wants what's best for you. And now you destroy relationships with a bunch of other people who genuinely care about you because the person that you're closest to or you've submitted most of your attention to, that person is just ruining your life from the inside of you, using you to do it. Next thing, killing your hopes and dreams. But and again, I say this is a social one because it has to do more with like existential shame than it does with like your own, like killing your own hopes and dreams. But um there's a lot of like, this is like a small town type situation. But so if you live in like a, I don't know, if you live in like a city, even like a metro, you might not understand this. But if you are coming from a family of failures, usually narcissists are failures, or they're just like, they overinflate their ego. So they have to act like average people are failures who aren't at the level they're at, not knowing that they're average as fuck too if they were around other successful people. But the point of the, and this section probably applies more to cults and narcissistic community systems. But the point is, we are going to reinforce this collective psychosis by making sure that we make the people who have an opportunity of destroying the system the odd one out, the traitor, the villain. We will demonize that person because it's so much easier to just keep the cult going and just knock off every like black sheep every now and then, or fire them or reject them or force them into compliance. It's so much easier to do that every now and then than it is to have them tear down the whole system and then create a whole entire new one and then attempt to recolonize the whole entire world when you could have just, again, option A. And And again, this is why we'll discuss a little bit later in here. Healing, it comes with such a deep level of self-awareness and discovery and acceptance, because it's you literally going into literally like the individual phrases and things that you were told, and being able to refract and see, do I believe in this? Am I this? Was this actual reinforcement, or was this projected insecurity just waiting for me to fucking accept it and then sabotage my life about it? This is why we purge. This is why we purge. Because you will never purge your real self out. Remember this. You will never, like, you are infinite. The trauma that you've been through is limited. But if you don't address it, it's going to feel just as infinite as you are. If you are infinite, there is attachments to this energy that you're cultivating, and it's either stopping you from cultivating it or it's blocking you. We need to get that out of the way, and we need to turn the gears, get the gears going so the flames come back on. Get the machine going, get the machine going. And when we get the machine going, we start to see, oh, there's all this projected insecurity, there's these lies, there's these fantasies, there's this nonsense, resentment that was thrown onto me that I shouldn't even need to be taking responsibility for. All right? And when we do that, we start to realize, oh, wait, I just went into myself. I keep on saying it's normal. I just went into my soul, went and just traversed, just swam into this ocean of blackness, abyss of darkness that I can't even understand. And I was very afraid to surrender to, because I thought I was going to get lost in it, until I realized that I am the light, putting light on all the things that I threw into this abyss, because I thought just because it was the darkness would make it disappear. No, no, no. The darkness makes those little small things that we don't address, makes them grow into giant monsters and makes us more afraid of them over time. And we forget that those giant extremities of ideas that exist within us, or experiences, are just overgrown trauma bodies, overgrown experiences that were never addressed in real time, and were allowed to fester and grow in the darkness into this monstrosity that will again make you even more afraid and want to run even further away because of your fear, instead of realizing that is me. That is just a version of me that I abandoned so far ago and has been allowed to continue to grow in abandonment, rather than me sitting down with it, no matter how great and scary it is, and accepting what we had to go through, and allowing me, the right now person, to take responsibility for creating a new life. Knowing that we're doing this for the sake of making sure that I'm showing love through my current existence, the only real reality, to the version of me that had to endure that at a time or in a place that person could not get the love they deserved. There's a scene in Avatar. I wish I could video edit better, but there's a scene in Avatar where Avatar is like, I think Aang is supposed to, he's like fighting himself, but it's these shadow people, but the shadow people are the versions of him that I don't know if it's he's afraid of, or that he refuses to accept. No, this is not even Avatar. This is Naruto, I'm pretty sure. If you watch anime, please tag this in the comments. But Naruto was fighting in this metaphysical realm all these different versions of himself, and he didn't get to like the conclusion of the battle until he realized that the only fight that was happening was self-rejection. And the only way to conquer the battle was the acceptance of the self, because he was fighting against versions of himself that, again, this is me adding on, were real, but were rejected as a means of trying to escape or to move on without proper acknowledgement and addressing of the issue. This is why we purge. This is why we purge. And actually, I'm going to add another conversation here. I think that alcohol is a medication that can be used to purge energetically. I think that we are using alcohol wrong, very wrong in our society. And it's almost like cough syrup, but like we're so far down the line in leveraging alcohol that, and like an everyday person can't really make cough syrup. You have to get that thing like prescribed or like rip it from a prescription. So we don't think about it this way. But some of the people that I look up to, especially Bobby Hemmett, actually spoke about this one time. It is a tool, a medication that is leveraged to purge the inner energy. But if you're not doing it with intention of self discovery and self acceptance, because that purging could come with crying, it can come with vomiting, it can come with pooping, it can come with needing to just rest for a long period of time, it can come with being very angry and raging. But if we're just leveraging this to like party, it's like a party drug, instead of seeing, oh, this can help us and this can actually accommodate the life that I live, and I don't have to drink it all the time to escape myself. I can leverage it to either enjoy engagements in a small sense, or I can really increase my dosage and try to understand myself through it. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge, huge opportunity for us to understand mental health. But it's again, alcohol is a party drug that's being abused, and it should not be. It should not be, bro. Now, we've discussed this in a handful of slides very indirectly, but to be very direct, let's address it right here. All of this endurance of trauma, all of this is going to put you in a position to where you are apart from yourself and not only serving the narcissist, but you are so apart from yourself that your brain is serving another person's body, but your body is existing at the mercy of being abandoned by the awareness that it is literally tied to. So it's not like a parent abandoning their child. It's literally like the awareness in your brain abandoning its own body to serve somebody else's body that already has its own brain and its own awareness. And then our body starts to live on the consequence of being abandoned, and on top of being abandoned, being abused and then abandoned, and then probably again festering into some monster of an overwhelming energetic experience to then be avoided later on. But it's this type of abuse. The reason why it's such a lifestyle transforming aspect, and this is like such a lifestyle transforming progression, is because the narcissistic abuse itself has taken you from what you had the potential to be to make you what the narcissist needs you to be. And that can be very, very different, very far apart from who you genuinely are. So again, we have to realize this is a multi-step process to get you not only out of that, but back to a center. A center. We don't know what the center is, a center. Because you could be born in a narcissistic situation. And then from that center, expressing outwardly with confidence from that center, instead of further rejecting that center into finding another narcissist who may be able to provide us with the validation that we, again, refuse to give ourselves, or the acceptance that we feel we aren't worthy of giving ourselves. And the more we engage in these relationships, the more we go further away from ourselves, the harder it is to go back into the self and to, one, see who we truly are. But even worse, we go so far apart from ourselves, we even tag our bodies in the same way that a healthy or proper soul development happens. We tag our bodies, whether it's with piercings or it's with tattoos, with the almost like as a showcase for the validation that we're hoping for, rather than I'm tagging my body and graffitiing my body in the way that I want to express myself, because this is something that I resonate with. This is a picture that I care about. These are words that I care about. This is who I am, and that's how I go. Okay, forgive me. I have to pee so bad. So we're gonna do our best to make it through here in as smooth as we possibly can. So the as a real healer and especially walking into a world where it's going to be a lot more religious psychosis, a lot more religious trauma happening. I want to remind you guys that I am not against having sex. I'm not against taking drugs, and I'm not against rock and roll. I think that those it's we live in a society where it's easy to dumb people down to where the only things they care about is still the controllables, and then anything that cannot be controlled or tamed, just reject it and say that it's the devil trying to convince them to do something stupid. I don't believe in that. I believe that I think all of the human experience is an opportunity for us to learn about ourselves and to better contribute to integrate ourselves into the collective of other souls that are also living online at the same time. Personally, I got to start with what I believe addiction is, and then I'll get into the different kind of modes as to where we may be leveraging to escape addressing the conversation that we're having with this lecture series. I believe that addiction is attempting to treat unconditional wounds with conditional coping mechanisms. And the very, very interesting thing about it is the reason why capitalism perpetuates it is because if you try to serve or treat an unconditional wound with a conditional coping mechanism, you're going to have to keep on getting more and more and more of that, whatever that cope is, to sustain the unconditional nature of the wound, unless you actually go out of your way to treat the wound for what it is. It's take these antipsychotic. Okay, I'm not telling you guys to not take your medication, but think about it like this: take your medication, 60 medications or 60 pills, 2 pills a day every single month to sedate you from, I don't know, immense trauma, or sedate you from actually having a foundation to discover yourself on and figure out what kind of accommodations you need. Dude, I have a monthly customer. I have a subscriber when I'm putting you on meds. But when I have you do the actual holistic work, you might never need any of this psychiatric medication again. And even worse, you might start actually looking deeper into this for-profit psychiatric mental health system that we have going on. And you might actually start to tear it down because you do realize it's fake. And you do realize selling healthcare should be a fucking sin. But it's not, because capitalism is, our God. Money is our God here. And as long as you're shelling money off of people who don't have a means to, fight against it legally, it's cool. Because rich people need to get richer. That's the purpose of our society, to literally make wealth inequality permanent by whatever dream you have to sell. It doesn't matter what it is. That's the problem with you guys. You guys think that it's a premeditated plan is just like everything has to go exactly how it was planned. No. We are iterating the fuck out of this plan. But back into this point right here. Capitalism perpetuates addiction, if not really, and scarcity. Scarcity manufactures the potential for addiction. Capitalism reinforces it and perpetuates it, and people become addicted onto everything that they're consuming, because they have to keep on giving themselves hits of the positive emotions they get from the engagement, living in a society that wants to deplete them of access to self-sufficiency and the ability to accept the self outside of consuming something. Now, what are ways that we can, a handful of ways that we can addict ourselves on a very deep sense to escape these deep soul wounds, especially like one like narcissistic abuse that we're addressing in this lecture series? Sex. Again, you guys are very, especially like you religious people, are very anti-sex. Your purity culture fucks. I don't care. Sex, I think, is an amazing, amazing opportunity for not only self-awareness and discovery, but for deep healing. We don't have sex intentionally enough, and we have a very taboo sex culture, if not just completely invisible sex education culture. And that's as a means of making people afraid of having it, and then consequencing people even more for engaging in it if they do. But I want those of us, especially those of us who are hypersexual, to ask ourselves, is it the person on the other side of this sex that I want? Is it the love that they're attempting to share with me that I want? Or is it the ability to be so just like deeply authentic and raw and express myself, release my energy through that state? I believe that. Like, I'm telling you, bro, like it's we have to stop looking at these things with shame and we can start actually creating understanding through discovery instead of creating beliefs out of ignorance. Because then we abandon the potential for greatness that we can exact through self acceptance and then through authentic actualization on the back end of that. Personally, I believe that drugs in any way, shape, or form are a mental vacation. And for poor people, I believe that the only reason why poor people, if, and I think this is just based off like reporting, because I think rich people take more drugs than anybody, but it's a means of taking a break from the brain, which is the inevitable like consequence of going through such like psychological trauma. You want to escape this without fully deleting yourself or escaping your body. And if many of us could look at it like that, like, oh, well, I'm genuinely like, I don't want to kill myself, but like, I don't want to be in this current reality, but I want to escape, but I also want to come back to this. But I also want to just like not fully go through the process of healing because that may be so overwhelming. I might actually not want to be here. And a lot of us would realize that's why we're taking drugs. And then for some of us, we just take them because we like to take them. Like for me, like I don't take like drugs, but like smoking weed, I'll do that every day until I'm dead. Till I'm dead. Even when I'm dead. Go ahead and put the plant in my body when I'm in the coffin. If I haven't been burnt and smoked by all my realist homies on planet Earth. But cremated, not burnt. Forgive me. And then the final thing, which may be a little different than the first two drugs that I was sharing in this fear of God, self hatred, psychosis, is clout chasing. Genuinely, it's validation seeking or it's clout chasing. And the reason why you'd even do such a thing like that, and again, all of these are from sex, drugs to validation and rock and roll, it's all sedatives. Everything is to attempt to treat or soothe the body through this socially kind of acceptable way of getting it in an undercover sense, but not in a way that has a potential to create more trauma, more potential trauma and issues for you than if you just understand why you do these things on your own or why you even do these things, period. Do not be a victim of, I do this because my friends do it, because everybody else does it. So I'm just going to take one. I'm just going to do this because they do it. Because we are all on our own journey. And it is very important that we have the discernment to decide whether or not we are going to engage in the coping mechanisms that certain people have chosen to go to, because their intention with those mechanisms may be so far different from us. We may be actually having sex or smoking weed or something because we genuinely enjoy it. These people may be doing it because they're running away from the fact that their parent just died last week. So and so abuses them. They're in a bad relationship. They don't have any finances. They're in a bunch in debt. So again, when it comes to these coping mechanisms, it's very, very, very important we understand the internal, because it's a person choosing to put something internal to transform their psyche, to transform something about what's going on inside. Obviously, that's why we're putting stuff from the outside into us that has a potential of deleting us. But it's all making sure that just keep running away from the self. Don't heal. Just keep running, 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 and never find yourself. Because somebody will see you running and they'll catch you and they'll make you. I'm going to have to use the bathroom so bad right now. I'm so sorry, guys. I have to use the bathroom so fucking bad. And then I'm going to get back to this and we're going to finish these next two slides. Oh, no. Keep sharing. My bad, Gangham. My bad, Gangham. All right, we're back. We're back. I had to use the bathroom so bad. I'm sorry. I don't even know how long this thing's been recording. We've had to have been going for at least 2 hours now. But now I just want to make sure that Hold on. Let me make sure that my headphones are still connected. I don't feel like I'm connected. Oh no, chilling. Okay, word up. Whoa, 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 whoa. Who's that? The reason why I want us to have this conversation specifically is because, especially when we get deeper into this and we start talking about connecting with professionals and like kind of older, like wiser people as you're going on your healing journey, you neglecting your experiences with this type of circumstance is only further leading you to self-rejection, and further self-rejection, the emotions that that creates within you is going to lead you to the discomfort that again pushes you into trying harder experiences than just accepting why you're even pursuing the immediate experiences that you are. Because again, I don't want to have like the gateway drug conversation. If anything, the main gateway drug is alcohol, leads to cocaine, which leads to crack. But nobody wants to have that conversation. A lot of this is I'm attempting to treat myself. And if you understand that you're looking at that with love, and I'm attempting to heal and treat myself with love, I'm just leveraging the wrong things, then we can start figuring out what we genuinely want to integrate into our lives. Probably healthy habits, better routines, a stronger support system. And then we can decide whether or not we would still pursue these things with a healing, intentional mind, rather than just doing them because we think, well, that's just the next thing I got to cling on to hopefully not feel as shitty as I feel right now. Because I'm telling you, these drugs and even the sex, even great sex, is not going to get you to stop feeling the pain that sits within your soul. It is just going to help you escape. But the greatest form of escape is death. And what are we doing if we're just constantly telling ourselves that I want to keep running away, away, away from my body and not giving anything, especially just fundamentally awareness and acceptance to my body? How much longer can I keep putting up with this shit? And even better, when you really start to address your pain instead of trying to serve your pain with the extremities, the fun that you're having, you can enjoy the good sex. You can enjoy the good drugs. I ain't even saying it like that, but you can enjoy the rock and roll music and the self-expression because you're not chasing anybody's acceptance or validation on the other end of doing it. And even better, you're not trying to hate or hurt yourself by doing these things. Now, again, this is a conversation. I know I said this was for dream chasers, but this is for anybody who is dealing with the hopelessness in their reality, especially with people who know that there's so much value sitting within them in their inner world, but their external circumstance or environment isn't allowing them the opportunity to cultivate that or to share that and to live as a consequence of that self-expression. This is why I made this video for you guys. Remember how important the inner universe and cultivation of the inner universe is. Even when you don't have a job, even when you don't have a relationship, even when you don't have something to believe in the external world, you and your soul are always going to exist together like a buddy pack. And for that, knowing that, you might as well make your brain a great place to exist and your soul a nice person to talk to. When we look at this as, again, when we look at the soul as something who wants to speak, whether it's an inner child or the soul or the inner universe, when you look at that as something that wants to live beyond the constriction of society, beyond the constriction of the cult community, beyond the constriction, I hope that's a word, of the narcissistic system that you're in, you have to be responsible for digging in there and putting the fire on that. And I guarantee you, if that is your soul calling you inward to become something more than your circumstances, you are going to become bigger than that which your circumstances are allowing you to be. Mind you, you'll probably have that sabotaged by the people who are insecure at your growth and your progress. But if you are the one who's developing this relationship with yourself and not just for the expectation or the hope of being accepted by the world or others, then the journey is in your hands as long as you allow it to be. Stop sedating yourself away from what your soul is telling you, bro, because you know it's real. And it's not everybody's soul telling them, I need $1,000,000. I need 10 bad bitches. Like, more times than not, the soul is telling you, dude, I'm just tired. I don't want to keep working this much and not being paid properly. I don't want to keep being in this relationship that's not reciprocating healthy energy. I don't want to keep showing up to these places and keep being a part of this system that doesn't give a fuck about who I really am and expects me to be somebody that I'm not. But you'll never have those conversations with the outside world that wants you to be naive, wants you to be ignorant, wants you to be the perfect prey to exploit. And then it can trade you patriotism or trade you a certification in exchange for your exploitation. I say, fuck it. I say, dig within yourself. I say, make peace with your chaos. And from there, share that chaos with the world through creativity. And I guarantee you, you will be compensated properly for that. Now, we've addressed the abuse. We have addressed not only the external, but we've also addressed our own perpetuation of the abuse that we may be enduring. I'm going to tell you right now, because the next step is the escape. Facing the truth will turn you into the villain. Because what did I say earlier in this section? I said that it's a lot easier to knock off a truth teller every now and then than it is to keep on destroying an entire system that we've spent millennia building just to create a new one for the potential that it can be destroyed potentially as well. I know I said potentially twice there. I apologize. Very superstitious. So the question is, when you're speaking about this no contact stuff, the question is, who is this for? Are you going no contact to prove to your narcissist how cool you are, how amazing you are, how much you can stand on your own, which will inevitably need their response and need their validation, need their engagement? Or are you leaving because you know you deserve a better environment to cultivate yourself in, and you know how much more blessed your life can be and how much more abundant your life can be on the other side of surrendering to following your soul rather than forcing yourself, surrendering your soul to submit to the complacency that, again, is not feeding you anything other than really survival? Because what's the fear that the narcissist wants you to have? You can't live without them. And they don't want you to know that that's coming directly from them. It's not coming from you. It's coming from them, because if you leave, then they can't leave. Then they can't live. And if they can't live, they have to find somebody else to live off of. And that is just further proof as to you being the source of this person's supply. You're going to be made to hate yourself, to reject yourself, to gaslight yourself, to be confused about pursuing this path only because, one, many people do not have the strength to pursue it, and two, it will literally cost everything that you think you are. If that's something you're ready for, get ready for this next part. We're about to get right into it. But if not, take your time. Understand if this is a circumstance that you're in. Understand if you're willing to let go of everything. Understand that this is not for the faint-hearted. And once you get on this path, more times than not, you can't turn around. You literally cannot turn around. But if you never get on the path, you will forever be asking yourself, what could be? So what regret do you want to live with? The regret of losing everything that you thought you were to become everything that you know you have the potential to be? Or sacrificing everything you had the potential to be in hopes of receiving the validation of somebody who doesn't want to convince you that you are actually the light that they are trying to sabotage? My Rebel Souls, thank you for being here for Section 1. Section 2 coming right up. If you'd like to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe. Dark Wizard Disani. Check us out, Cosmic Nomads Rebel Souls, if you want to support financially. If you think I'm cute, you want to have sex. Instagram. I'll catch you in part 2. Later. I love you guys so much.